Durant pull-up jumper off the rim and in. Oh! And the Thunder win!
All right, come on, let's sing the Thunder song.
Wait.
When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your thunder buddy and say these magic words.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Thunder Buddies podcast. You know, we've called it an emergency edition before. This is as emergency as it gets. This Thunder team obviously has been facing so many injuries of late, but I'm talking to you on Friday morning, which is the night after now it becomes clear that Russell Westbrook's out with a fractured right hand. The seventh guy to go down, obviously beyond Kevin Durant, by far the biggest. Darnell Mayberry's on the phone. He's out in L.A. I believe he's at – are you at LAX right now?
I'm en route. In LA traffic right now, trying to get to LAX. But, yeah, I'm on my way home.
Jeez. I'm sure it's been kind of a whirlwind night for you. I know you kind of broke the news this morning, late last night that he had the fracture of his hand, and now you're kind of this morning with the 4 to 6 week timetable. Just kind of take me through your night at the game, your night after the game in the locker room. I'm sure that was kind of a wild scene.
Yeah, I mean, this team really knows how to ruin an evening. I mean, we go up to Toronto last year. Russell Westbrook, has that scare with his knee. All of a sudden, a game that you think is going to be kind of ho-hum game turns into a triple overtime game. Russell Westbrook knee scare. And then again tonight, or last night, you think, hey, the Thunder's probably going to be blown out. The Clippers, a better team than Portland, most would say. And then all of a sudden, they're hanging tough. They're leading them for a lot of that game. And they make it a really competitive game, even when Russell Westbrook had to sit out early with foul trouble. And it's just not something that you expected. And then all of a sudden, he goes out with a hand injury, which no one really saw. I think a bunch of people at home could see on replays that he did something. But then you're in the arena, all you could really see was him kind of trying to shake it off. You couldn't really see the play when it happened. And then Russell Westbrook just took himself out of the game. I think Lance Thomas or Perry Jones was coming in for someone, one of those guys. And Russ just goes to the bench, and I think it was Perry Jones. He's like, yo, man, I'm not getting you. I'm a guy. And Russ just keeps on going to the bench. And, he almost sits down, but he doesn't. And then he just kind of makes a beeline towards the tunnel. And that's when, obviously, we all knew something was serious. But just not the night that anybody really expected, and turned into a long evening with trying to track down exactly what was going on and get the news of how severe this injury was.
Yeah, I think, it doesn't look bad. Even, you see the replay now, it just looks like he kind of, his hand, maybe grazes or hits Kendrick Perkins' back. It does not look like anything serious. But you almost kind of had to think it was serious when you saw him walking to the locker room and what happened, how frustrated he clearly was. Like you mentioned, he just kind of jetted off the court right to the locker room like he knew something bad was up. And then obviously you can tell he's extremely frustrated when a fan says something to him, which happens in probably every road arena, and he just kind of flips out on the fan for a second. I think he could tell right there, this might be an extended absence.
Yeah, you could see the frustration. Even while he was on the court, he's sitting there trying to flex it, and I thought it was his arm or his shoulder or something like that, the way he was kind of slouched down and leaning over, trying to shake it off, but it ended up being his hand, and he knew immediately something was wrong. But like you said, Slater, I mean, you look at the replay on what appears to be the play in question, at least seems like he got hurt on, and it doesn't look like it was much. I don't know if he got his hand caught in Perkins' jersey or if he just hit his elbow or something like that, and that led to the fracture. Maybe it was something before. Russell Westbrook was not available to the media last night. He exited the arena before the media was even in the back for the most part by the locker room.
So you didn't even see him?
No, we didn't even see him. Most of us didn't see him. I think a few people who may have gotten back there early saw him head for the bus, but most of us didn't even see him after the game. So But this could have been something also that might have been bothering him before. You know, Russell doesn't talk about injuries when it comes to himself. He doesn't talk about it when it comes to teammates. He just plays through things. So maybe this is something that was bothering him before, and this just made it worse.
Yeah, maybe. Just the way he reacted, though, I mean, like it didn't look like a huge hit on his hand, but the way he kind of looked at it, like, what just happened to my hand? It kind of made me think it was just an immediate thing that happened right there. It wasn't anything that was bothering him before. Obviously, he was playing great, in the Portland game. He was pretty good early on last night, besides the foul trouble. It's rough, though. How was the locker room? I saw a tweet. You kind of broke the news to Kendrick Perkins that it was kind of him who broke Westbrook's hand, right?
Yeah, Perk had no idea what I was talking about. It's always interesting because at halftime, it happened midway through the second quarter. That's when Russ took himself out of the game, went back to the locker room. So he was back there in the locker room when the team came in at halftime. And Scott Brooks said that they all addressed it at halftime, and I think they knew then that Russ was not going to come back, and it was pretty serious. But it's just funny that Perk didn't have any idea that he was even involved in the play. But like you said, like I said, it was a fluke play, so nobody even really knew what had happened on that play. So I can't blame Big Perk, but he definitely was not in the loop.
Yeah, the 4 to 6 week timetable. I'm honestly first of all, how surprised are you that Scott Brooks came out and said it post game? Usually how they handle these things, we'll reevaluate tomorrow. Then they themselves come out with like a press release or something. How surprised were you how it was handled? He tells you the fracture, and then how the 4 to 6 week timetable, is that just what it usually is for that injury?
Yeah, I was surprised that Scotty said it. A bunch of people tried to ask him the question. We're out here in L.A., obviously, and second largest market in the country. So about 6 people tried to jump in and ask the same question, and Brooks just kind of candidly gave the answer. And, I was shocked, and obviously in this day and age, you reach for your phone and try to tweet it out as soon as possible to get the news out there. But you're right. That's not how the Thunder generally handles it. Scott Brooks normally says, he doesn't have an update. They'll let you know as soon as possible. But they didn't come out with the 4 to 6 weeks. I think that's still going to come out in a press release, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. The team is still in L.A. They stayed in L.A. last night, and they're flying back Friday morning to Oklahoma City. So Westbrook is expected to undergo further tests today, and that should be done in Oklahoma City once the team lands. But that 4 to 6 week timeline, something I talked to a couple of different people, and that's what the expectation is. The 6 weeks could keep him out until mid-December, which is not good. 21 games. You're talking about losing a lot of ground potentially in the standings at that point. So this is obviously a crippling blow for this team.
Yeah, the interesting part about it is he does this 2 weeks to the day actually after Durant has surgery, which would Durant was 6 to 8, so 2 weeks from his surgery would be 4 to 6. You couple that with now Westbrook looks like he's 4 to 6. They're actually kind of on the same exact timetable right now, which is kind of interesting. For some perspective, I kind of posted it online today, but Danny Green fractured the same metacarpal last season. He actually only missed 22 days, not even a full month, about 3 weeks, 11 games. Kawhi Leonard fractured, his hand 16 games last year. He actually fractured it against the Thunder last year and then missed 35 days, so a little more than a month. But overall, if you kind of look at the recent, occurrences of this injury, it's typically around what you mentioned, about 4 to 6 or so. Obviously it varies. Like with any injury, it varies by player, by injury, how severe it is. But he's going to miss some time. There's no doubt about that. So what do the Thunder do next? We're kind of hearing this, can they pick up a player with this exception that comes into effect if you have multiple, I think it is, 3 or 4 players that are out for extended periods of time?
Yeah, 4 players under the league's hardship rule, you get to add a player to your roster and exceed the 15-man roster if you have 4 players who are out for 2 weeks or more, and they have to miss 3 straight games. So the Thunder actually applied for it recently and was informed that they couldn't get it by the league. So, they're definitely going to apply again. And once Saturday's game comes and goes, then they're definitely going to qualify this time because you got Durant, Mitch McGary, Anthony Morrow,
Grant Jarrett,
and Grant Jarrett all going to miss the third straight game on Saturday in the home opener. So, Thunder meets the criteria at this point, and I definitely expect the team to do something to try to get some relief in here. Now, who that guy is, we can break that down all we want, but it's anyone's guess. There's already a report out there.
Gal McKell.
From website. I don't even know who that guy is. What's his name?
You talking about the player?
Not the reporter.
The player is Gal McKell. He played for the Mavs all preseason. He actually made the Mavs roster, but then they got JJ Barea. He was released from the Timberwolves and went to the Mavs. In turn they released this guy Gal McKell. What's interesting? I wonder if JJ Barea kind of wishes he waited a couple more days. He'd start on this team right now, on this Thunder team. But it's interesting. Who? Nate, this is my guess. I think because you want to get a guy in here who kind of knows the system a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if they just bring Michael Jenkins back. He's a guy who played pretty well for them in the preseason, can shoot a little bit. Obviously, he was with this team all preseason. That's who my guess is.
Yeah, the thing about a guy like Michael Jenkins is, does he have a better opportunity somewhere else? And that might sound strange, but, do you want to come here for a couple $1,000? Do you want to try to go overseas if you're Michael Jenkins and make, a couple $100,000? So, I think that's the decision that a guy like Michael Jenkins, a fringe NBA player, would have to weigh. But I do agree with your point. A guy who was here, who played pretty well in the preseason for this team. So that's definitely a possibility. And I think you're leaning the right way, Slater. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. They got to get some relief on the wings. Point guard, shooting guard, small forward. There were times last night where Perry Jones and Kendrick Perkins were sharing point guard duties. Sebastian Telfair is the only relatively healthy guy on this team at the point guard spot. And I say relatively because he's still recovering from a sprained right thumb that you could see him favoring last night after going in and getting it hit on a layup. So they need some help at point guard certainly, and they also need some help on the wing.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've kind of skated a little bit around this because all these injuries are minor in nature, kind of, they're month related. And to this point, it's kind of been like, once they get back healthy, they'll get rolling, they'll get in the playoffs. At this point, are you starting to worry this is a team that may be fighting for a playoff spot?
I don't think they're going to fight for a playoff spot. This team's too talented. Even with an injury-ravaged roster right now, they could lose a lot of ground. I expect that, actually. But, if they're healthy by mid-December, that gives them plenty of time to make up ground and catch up and be right back in the thick of the playoff race. I don't think there's going to be any question whether they make the playoffs. The example I continue to use, Slater, is the Memphis Grizzlies last year. On January 21st, 22nd, 23rd, somewhere around there, they were 20-20.
Yeah.
And they still had enough time to really get everyone healthy. They got Marc Gasol back after he missed a big chunk of the start of the season. And then they went 30-12 the rest of the way. So, you can always make up ground. It's a long season. I think people always forget that, especially when you hear this amount of injuries. But this is an incredibly long season, and a lot can still happen.
Yeah, true. But 20-20. I don't know if the Thunder are going to be 20-20. Let's say for now, let's just go. These two missed 20 games. I mean, what do you expect their record to be with Westbrook and Durant out 20 games? I mean, this might be a 4-16, 5-15 type team, 6-14, something like that. I mean, where do you think this is going in the next month?
It's not going to be pretty, but I am encouraged by what I saw the first games. These guys came out and competed. They put everything they had into winning these games and did a pretty good job. And almost, they were competitive through 3.5 quarters in Portland. And then they came out and they made it Serge Ibaka had a chance to send it to overtime on a last-second shot. So, these guys are going to continue to play hard. I think it's going to be tough for them to win games. But the one thing that you got to love about this team right now is the competitive spirit. They're not giving up. They're not feeling sorry for themselves. They're still going out there and playing hard and doing everything they can to try to get wins.
Yeah, I'll just throw it out there for kind of devil's advocate with it. Let's say they go 5-15 in the first 20 games. Zach Lowe kind of put that number out there on Twitter today, and it is kind of realistic. Regardless of they are playing energized and well, but just how depleted they are, and playing without Durant and Westbrook. If they were to go 5-15 in the first 20 games, they'd have to go 44-18 the rest of the way to get to 49 wins, which is what the 8 seed was last year. And 44-18 is like a big time record.
But here's the thing, though. So, I mean, you got Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, who are going to be fresh and ready to really make a run. I mean, they're going to come back motivated, knowing what they have to do.
Yeah.
So you get those two guys fresher than everyone else in the league, and hungry. Having a sense of purpose, a sense of urgency in those 60 or so games. I think that could be scary for the rest of the league, in my opinion.
No, I agree in that aspect. As far as if you were to guarantee me that these guys will come back in a month, all of them. Or, all the big, Grant Jarrett or Mitch McGary may not be as important, but if you get Jackson and Lamb back soon and you get Westbrook and Durant back within a month, I'd still say this team's going to make the playoffs, and they'll be an incredibly scary 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 seed. But that's that's barring no setbacks. In the way this season's going, if one of these guys comes back and suffers another maybe injury scare or another month injury, there's just not really any more margin for error.
No, it's a great point. I mean, you can't have a recurring injury or some sort of setback like you mentioned. And if you do, yeah, you're in trouble. But most of these injuries don't seem like the type. Like, we're not talking about knee surgeries, things like Westbrook went through throughout last season. These are all things that you would expect them to be able to bounce back from and continue to play at a high level. So
yeah,
I'm not really concerned right now in terms of the standings and things like that. I think as long as the Thunder gets in the playoffs, which, like I said, I have no doubt that they're going to get in, I don't think it really matters much if they're the 4th seed, 5th seed, or 6th seed. Obviously, you want to be as high as possible, but I think they can win anywhere, anytime. So as long as they're healthy. If they're not healthy, then all bets are off. But this team, to me, is still the most talented team in the league. And I just, I got a lot of confidence that they could really play well no matter the circumstances in the playoffs.
Yeah, the weird thing about this is, you got 7 injuries right now, but the thing is, you'd take these 7 injuries at this time for this amount of time, which is about a month for most of them, you would take that over one season ender at a wrong time. Like, you'd take these 7 in this season at this time over a Westbrook injury against the Rockets in the playoffs 2 years ago. You're just in a better situation now because you have recovery time. So, they'll be all right. But you know what it does? It makes this early season pretty interesting. Like Saturday's home opener against Denver, for example. These become very important games and potentially important wins. Like, this is kind of a big game.
Yeah, it is. It'll be the first time, if the Thunder loses, it'll be the first time in the franchise Oklahoma City era that they start 0-3.
Really?
So,
What about the first year? Did they win one of those first three?
yeah.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think they were 1-2. I believe they were 1-2.
Up against it
So,
then. But
yeah. I mean, but you're clearly playing for. You're looking at the schedule at this point, and you're trying to get any win you can. Any game that looks like a winnable game, that's a game that you desperately need at this point. So you have to have it.
yeah. Beyond, the injuries now, past the injuries, now let's look at this team as it's constructed right now, moving forward. Do you think they're getting Jackson or Lamb back? Like, now?
Yeah. I mean, the way a lot of the players made it sound last night is that Jackson is on his way back and could play as soon as Saturday. I've been hearing all this week that the ankle injury is not that serious, and but the fact that he didn't travel, that kind of gave me a little bit of concern. You think that he'd be able to travel with an ankle injury. I mean,
Yeah.
Durant and McGarry are out here with plastic boots on their foot. So why he didn't accompany the team kind of surprised me.
Well,
I didn't understand that.
My guess on that is, McGarry and Durant are out for a while. Let them travel with the team, stay with the doctors. I think you keep Jackson and obviously Lamb at home because maybe you just give them around-the-clock treatment and, you're trying to get them back for Saturday. Specifically Jackson. Maybe it's just a deal that it was such a quick injury. Let's just, keep him as rested as we can, do all these treatments on him. Ankle injuries, ankle sprains, anyone who's played basketball, I know you have, I have, ankle sprains, they hurt. They really hurt the next day, but they don't typically take too long for a recovery.
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, it's a big deal. I don't think he's going to miss a lot more time. But with that being said, I kind of would be surprised if he played Saturday.
Well, I think if they had a fuller deck, he may take a little bit more time, but I wouldn't be surprised if he can go on it that he doesn't. Remember he sprained his ankle at one of the games in the playoffs last year, tried to come back, but then had to pull himself out of that game, but then ended up, I think, playing a couple nights later. So, he's a guy who's sprained his ankle plenty of times, it seems. Besides Jackson, besides maybe getting him and Lamb back, where does this team go right now? Are you encouraged? Perry Jones, 32 points last night. That kind of came out of nowhere. Somebody had to score, but, he did play well.
Hey, Woj just tweeted Alec Burks, 4-year, $42 million.
Alec Burks?
Yeah, $10.5 million a year for Alec Burks. So
Reggie, get back.
Deals and compare him to Reggie.
Reggie, get back and earn your money. This is his shot. I bet you he's really pushing to get back right now because, he's got all this Michael Jordan talk and superstar talk. He's got a chance right now. He can take all the shots he wants right now.
Yeah, and that could be either really good or really bad because I'm not sure you want, Westbrook played fantastic against Portland, much better than I thought he would. But, Portland really didn't do a lot of things defensively to try to shut off his water. They pretty much played in single coverage, starting with Lillard, then Matthews, then Batum. I was thinking that these teams would throw the kitchen sink at him while all these other guys were out. So if you're Reggie Jackson, you got to kind of think about that. Do you want to come back and try to face those types of defenses? I'm pretty sure he's not ready to do that yet in his career. Even though I think he's a fantastic young player, nobody wants to face the kitchen sink when it comes to defenses.
I'd bet you he wouldn't mind it. I bet in his mind he thinks it's fine. I understand your point. But it'll be huge to get him back. They need a playmaker. Their three main playmakers are out right now. Two obviously aren't coming back in the immediate future. They I feel like that's huge to get Jackson back Saturday. But where do you see them going? And were you encouraged by Perry Jones' game?
No, because it's so few and far between. You saw how erratic he can be. One night you barely notice him on the court. The next night he puts up a career high 32 points against the Clippers, no less. So Um, I've never seen enough to believe that he can do things like that consistently. Not score 32 a night, obviously, but just come out and consistently be a threat, whether it's a scorer, a rebounder, a playmaker, just a hustle player. I just haven't seen enough. So I'm not going to be fooled by that one performance. I'm going to chalk that up to, hey, we needed someone to step up.
Someone had
he
to
just
score.
happened to be that guy.
Yeah. Where else? I mean, Serge Ibaka was good last night. You know, he hit 2 more threes, by the way. He's already at 3.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
I mean, do you want to amend that prediction? He's already at 3.
No. He's not getting, what was it, 60 you said?
60, which was bold.
He's not getting
Most people wouldn't have even put him at 40. I put him at 60, and I'm feeling confident. You see them. Hey, that was a nice play set by Scott Brooks last night. That little elevator screen to get that big 3 down the stretch.
Yeah, I saw you tweeted. I didn't get a chance to go back and look at it.
You should check it out. It was a nice play. Play design, and Serge looked good coming through it. Catch, top of the key 3. They are going to run some plays to get Serge Ibaka 3s in the next couple weeks because he's their best 3-point shooter right now.
And that's embarrassing.
It is in a lot of ways. I think at one point they were 4 of 30 from 3. I think that they hit too late. But, I mean, this season they're something like 6 of like 35 from 3 or something like that, which isn't really surprising considering.
Not when you see Belfair out there chucking.
You know, he's their only guard. He had to play 38 minutes last night, which is crazy. He's not looking too good, though.
No, but he hit a big one
he
down
did.
the stretch. Keep him close. But he needs to settle down on this. I don't know what he's thinking shooting all those threes.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's up with Steven Adams too? I mean, he's not playing well through 2 games.
Well, he's dependent on Westbrook. You know, he's dependent on him and
Durant.
Score. I mean, he needs those guys to get him involved. So when they're not on the court or when they're scoring and not setting him up, he's going to struggle. And you know, I don't think that's a surprise. But he's made some pretty good moves in the post. He just kind of struggled with his finish so far. I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah. How about that Troy Polamalu foul he put on Blake Griffin with 3 seconds?
That was a hell of a foul.
That was one of the more impressive intentional fouls I think I've ever seen. He playing NFL safety. All right. What are you thinking over these next few weeks, record-wise?
Not going to be good. I know that. Who they got? They got Denver, Brooklyn, Toronto. Then who's after that?
Memphis is the game after that. So that'll their first 6. You know, maybe one win. They can maybe get 2. I think a lot of it depends on if Jackson and Lamb come back. I think they could maybe. I think that's going to be a good game. I'm kind of excited for that game Saturday. I think it's going to be a good environment. I think they're going to come out very energized. They've been playing well lately. Denver's an average team. It's turned into a weirdly big game, I think.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, never mind that. But you know, they do hit a stretch after that Memphis game where they can get some wins. Kings, Bucks, Celtics, Pistons, 4 straight games. That'll be an important stretch.
The Kings got talent now. I mean, the Kings got talent.
Well, look, every team has talent. Milwaukee's got talent. Boston has talent. The Pistons got talent. They're just compared to other teams in the league. I'm not saying the Thunder will win all 4 or any of those 4 games. It's more favorable than what they're facing right now. And, you know, by that time, maybe Jackson's healthier, Lamb's healthier. We'll see.
You pay attention to odds, things like that. Would you agree that they're probably going to be the underdog in every game for the next month?
No. I think they're going to get a couple guys back as far as, you know, like we mentioned, Jackson, Lamb. I think a home game against Sacramento, I think they'll probably be favored. You know, maybe a game against the Bucks. Maybe they got a home game Pistons. Game against Utah. I bet you they're favored in 1 or 2 of these games. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see Saturday's line, but I guess we won't know until we know exactly who's back for the game. But they're not going to be favored in many games.
Yeah. It's going to be some bad basketball here. Like much worse. We already knew it was going to be some disappointing and disjointed basketball at times. Now it's really going to be bad. That's why I'm not really looking forward to it. Just because, if they can be competitive, it could turn into a good story. But I don't expect them to win many games right now. I think it's that bad. And whoever they go out and try to get, it's not going to be a player that can really help them all that much. That's the only problem with, trying to use that hardship exception. Whoever they get is not going to be a great player. If he was that good of a player, he'd be on a team already.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's going to be a rough stretch, but it's only November. November 1st today, right? Or no, wait, it's Halloween. Man, I'm losing it. We'll see. You getting to the airport yet?
I'm on the rental car shuttle, headed back now, going to the terminal.
All right. I got to do the chat today. I got to calm down some Thunder fans who are in panic mode.
Good luck with that. It sounds like you're in panic mode too. You're saying that they're not going to win many games.
Well, it's not panic mode. That's realistic mode. They're not going to win many games over the next month. And I think it's just, if they're in the East, you wouldn't feel as bad. But I mean, in the West, there's going to be a lot of teams over 500, and it's just it is. I think it's going to make. I'll just put it like this. I think in early April, the Thunder are going to be kind of fighting for a playoff spot, and I think it's going to make it very interesting for early April. Some of the games we're covering, unlike in years past, where we're just talking about seeding. Are they going to be a 1 or a 2 or a 3? I think that's coming just because of all the injuries right now.
I think what you have to do is look at the January, February, and March schedule, analyze those, see who's on the schedule, how winnable those games are, because that's the time that they're really going to be able to make up some ground. And if they can put together 2 solid months, I think they're going to be okay, where you're not basically fighting to make the playoffs come April.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but we'll see. We'll talk to you again next week sometime. We should have maybe a clearer view of some of these injuries, when exactly they're coming back, and a clear view of what this team's going to be moving forward. So we'll talk to you again next week.
Durant pull-up jumper off the rim and the Thunder win!
Come on, let's sing the Thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your Thunder buddy and say these magic words.